Next, we'll make the box. It includes the front piece, back piece, side piece, upper and lower pieces, and the collar. The upper piece needs to have the collar and hat sewn on. The side and lower pieces require the limbs to be sewn on. And each part needs to have the grid board and lining sewn together. Let's start with the front piece first. It consists of 3 sections. Among these, section 2 is divided into 3 parts, the right side, middle, and left side. We'll crochet each part separately. Section 3 connects the left and right sides of section 2. Finally, we'll crochet around the edges of the piece. Please watch as I demonstrate the specific crocheting method. Let's start with section 1. Begin by crocheting 21 chains. Then, work on the first row. Start from the second chain from the hook. Work a single crochet in each stitch. Finish crocheting this row. The first row is now completed. Continue with the second row. Make 1 chain as your beginning chain. Turn the fabric over. Pick up the stitches and work a single crochet in each stitch. Complete this row. The second row is now finished. Move on to the remaining part of the next section. Crochet back and forth in single crochets evenly. Complete the corresponding number of rows. The method is quite simple. Everyone can finish it on your own. Next, crochet section 2. Start with the right side. Then continue from the ending position of section 1. Make 1 chain as your beginning chain. Turn the workpiece over. Crochet 4 single crochets. The first row is completed. Continue with the second row. Chain 1 to begin. Turn the piece over. Skip the first stitch. Start crocheting from the second stitch. Work 3 single crochets evenly. The second row is now finished. Move on to the third row. Make 1 chain as your beginning chain. Turn the workpiece. Correspondingly make 2 single crochets. Leave the last stitch unworked. The third row is completed. Similarly, work 2 single crochets for the fourth row. Move on to the fifth row. Chain 1 to begin. Turn over the fabric. Work 1 single crochet. Skip 1 stitch. The fifth row is done. For the sixth and seventh rows below, each row involves turning the piece and then crocheting 1 single crochet. Complete them all. Next, work on the 8th row. Start with 2 chains. Then pick up the top loop of the second chain from the hook. Work 1 single crochet. Pick the left stitch and make another single crochet. The 8th row is now finished. Continue with the 9th row. Make 1 chain as your beginning chain. Turn the piece. Crochet 1 single crochet. Then make 1 SC2 in 1. The 9th row is now complete. For the remaining part on the right side, follow the sequence in the chart and crochet back and forth. All the stitch methods you need have been demonstrated before. Everyone, refer to the previous demonstrations to finish them. After completing, fasten off the yarn normally. Everyone, take a look. This is what section 2 on the right side looks like after it's finished. Use this side as the right side of the piece. Now move on to section 2 on the left side. Make sure the right side of the piece is facing you. Join the yarn at the 4th stitch, from the end on the left side of section 1's last row. Chain 1 to begin. Crochet 4 single crochets evenly. As you crochet, weave in the yarn tail for joining. The first row is now complete. The crocheting method for the remaining part, on the left side below, is relatively simple. Please refer to the previous demonstration on your own. Follow the chart and crochet it all the way down. After completing, fasten off the yarn normally. Everyone, take a look. This is what section 2 on the left side looks like after it's finished. Next, move on to section 3. Make sure the right side of the piece is facing you. Join the yarn at the first stitch of section 2 on the right side. Chain 1 to start. Work single crochets evenly. Finish all the stitches on the right side. Then align the left piece with the right piece. Pay attention to ensure the pieces don't twist. Continue picking up the left stitches and work corresponding single crochets. Complete this row. The first row is now complete. For the remaining part of section 3, crochet back and forth in single crochets evenly. Complete the corresponding number of rows. Everyone can finish them on your own. Don't cut the yarn after completion. Look everyone. This is what section 3 looks like after it's done. Now we'll crochet the edging. Let's start with the first round. Make 1 chain as your beginning chain. Turn the work piece, hook into the next stitch and work 1 SC3 in 1. Then pick up the left stitch and crochet. Crochet 18 single crochets correspondingly. After completing, pick the last stitch and work 1 SC3 in 1. Now we're at the side of the fabric. Pick the gap between these two rows, which is the edge stitch of row 2. Work 1 single crochet. Continue picking the left row and work 1 single crochet. Crochet 1 single crochet correspondingly down to the next row. Finish this edge. After completing, pick the remaining 2 strands of the beginning chain, and work 1 SC3 in 1. Then pick the remaining 2 strands of the left chain, and work 1 single crochet. Let's take a look at the fabric. Work 1 SC3 in 1 at the corner position. Crochet corresponding single crochets in the rest of the positions. Continue working according to this pattern to finish this round. Finally, pick the first stitch, and join with a slip stitch. Tighten. Fasten off normally. The first round is now finished. Move on to the second round. Join the corresponding color yarn in the first stitch of the previous round. Make 1 chain as your beginning chain. Work 1 single crochet into the joining position. Then work 1 single crochet into the next stitch on the left. Chain 2. And work 1 single crochet. Treat these 2 single crochets and 2 chains as the corner group. Continue working single crochets correspondingly along the edge. Work the corner group at the corner position. Finish this round. After completing, use the same method used for joining the hat to fasten off the yarn, that is, the invisible fastening off method. Weave in the ends. The edging round on the outer edge is now completed. Next, crochet the middle of section 2. Have the right side of the fabric facing us. Locate the middle remaining position from the last row of section 1. Skip 4 stitches on the right side. Join the yarn at the 5th stitch. Chain 1 as the beginning chain. Hook into at the joining position, and work 1 single crochet. Continue to work 3 single crochets evenly. The first row is now completed. Move on to the second row. Chain 1 to begin. Turn the workpiece. Skip the first stitch. Work 2 single crochets correspondingly. Skip the last stitch. The second row is now completed. Next, crochet the edging at the center of section 2. Chain 1 as the beginning chain. Turn the fabric. Work 2 single crochets evenly. Then pick up the space between 2 rows and work 2 single crochets correspondingly. Next, pick up the skipped stitches on the left side. Work 4 single crochets correspondingly. Continue to pick up the skipped stitches on the left row, and work 1 single crochet. Work 1 single crochet into the space between the 2 rows. Continue to work 1 single crochet into the stitch on the left side. Move downward and pick up the spaces between rows to work single crochets. Proceed with this method to complete the entire round. After finishing, fasten off the yarn using the same invisible method as before. Weave in the ends. The edging for the center is now completed. Up to this point, the front piece is fully crocheted. Next, make and attach the grid board and lining. Cut the grid board into the same shape as the front piece. Mindful that the outer edge should be slightly smaller than the fabric. Make sure not to extend beyond the outermost crocheted border. Cut out a heart shape in the middle, roughly the same size. Everyone, take a look. This is what the grid board looks like after cutting the sample. Next, cut the lining according to the size of the grid board. The lining needs to be slightly larger than the grid board. The edges should be about 0.5 centimeters wider than the grid board. Cut out the same shape around the heart position inside. Note that it should also be about 0.5 centimeters wider than the inner edge of the grid board. Next, use the yarn tail to temporarily secure the grid board and the fabric. Pay attention to place the grid board on the wrong side of the fabric. When securing, make sure not to fix it near the edge positions. Now the grid board is secured. Next, attach the lining. Place the wrong side of the lining toward the grid board. Right side facing out. Similarly, temporarily secure it in the middle. My sample is already secured. Now start sewing together. Take the sewing thread and insert it into a thin needle. Fold it in half. Tie a knot at the thread tails. Start sewing from any position. Wrap the lining edge around the grid board. Fold it toward the wrong side. Gently tighten the lining to prevent wrinkles. Sew a bit on the wrong side of the fabric first. Then pass through the yarn loop left by the tail. Slightly tighten. Secure the yarn tail well. Then exit through the edge of the lining. Mind that the lining must be flat and close to the grid board, or slightly tight. It must not be too loose. The folded lining should be pressed securely. Insert the thread segment again. Exit with a distance apart. Similarly, insert it into the fabric. Pay attention not to go through the right side of the fabric. Continue inserting into the lining. Insert into the wrong side of the fabric. Pull tight. Continue inserting. Exit. Try not to show too much of the sewing marks. Repeat this process and continue sewing. The gaps in the sample are larger here. You can sew more tightly when you actually sew. When you reach the corner position, fold the lining fabric slightly. Wrap the grid board well. Tidy it up and continue sewing. After sewing one round, tie a double knot. Weave in the ends. This way, the edge of the lining fabric is sewn. Next, sew the edge of the lining at the heart-shaped position. You can first cut a small notch about 1 centimeter apart in the extra lining part of the heart section, like this. Then sew from any position using the same method. Once completed, tie a double knot. Weave in the ends. The temporarily secured threads can be removed. This completes the sewing of the grid board and the lining. Up to this point, the front piece is done. Next, make the back piece. Let's take a look at the finished product. It is divided into the back piece, decorations, and the grid board and lining. The crocheting method for the back piece is relatively simple. We will start from foundation chain and work back and forth along the beginning chain. After completion, crochet the edging around the fabric. Everyone can follow the order of the chart to crochet. My sample is already finished. Please watch as I demonstrate the installation method for the decorations. My sample is already finished. Please watch as I demonstrate the installation method for the decorations. The decoration on the back piece consists of non-woven fabric and gold thread. First, cut out the corresponding pieces of non-woven fabric according to the paper pattern. When cutting, be mindful to conserve the non-woven fabric so you don't run out. My sample is already cut. Next, place the non-woven fabric like this with the pointed ends facing each other. Arrange them evenly in 2 rows in the middle of the fabrics. Then secure them with glue. Keep the remaining non-woven fabric stored for later use. Next, embroider with the gold thread. Cut a length of gold thread and thread it through the needle. Start by sewing a few stitches on the wrong side to secure it in place. Then locate the pointed tips of the diamond shapes in the top 2 columns. Come out from the corresponding stitches of the first round of the edging. Find the matching positions of the pointed tips of the diamond shapes on the side. Insert into the stitch of the first round of the edging. This creates a diagonal line like this. Continue by coming out from the matching positions of the tips of the diamond in the bottom 2 rows. Exit through the pointed tip position of the first round of the upper edging. Another diagonal line is now embroidered. Pay attention that the thread should not be pulled too tight nor too loose. Keep the fabric flat. Continue downwards using this method to embroider 2 more parallel diagonal lines. After completion, embroider intersecting diagonal lines in the symmetrical position. After finishing, tie a double knot. Then use glue to secure the gold thread onto the corresponding position of the fabric. This completes the decoration. Next, cut out the grid board and lining in the corresponding size. Fix it in the middle first. Then wrap the edges of the lining around the grid board and sew it together with the wrong side of the fabric. The sewing method is the same as for the edge of the front piece lining. Everyone can finish sewing them on your own. Look, this is what the back piece looks like after completing. The crocheting and decoration methods for the left and right pieces are exactly the same. They are similar to the back piece. After completion, you need to attach steel rods, the grid board, and the arms, and sew the buttons onto the right side piece. Finally, install the lining. Please watch as I demonstrate the specific making method. Next, attach the steel rod. Cut a piece of thread in the same color as the side piece and thread it into the sewing needle. Place the steel rod in the middle of the fabric. Line it up parallel to the long edge. Leave about 5 centimeters exposed at one end. You can take out the leg. The exposed length should be roughly the same as the length of the leg. At this position, pick up the wrong side of the fabric and whip stitch it to the steel rod. Pay attention to ensure that the yarn tail does not show on the right side. After sewing securely, tie a double knot. This completes the installation of the steel rod. Next, align the grid board with the wrong side of the fabric. Temporarily secure it in the center with a piece of yarn. Then, attach the arms on the right side of the fabric. Match the arms to the diamond decoration above the fabric. Take the remaining shaping wire from the arm. Insert it through approximately the position above the diamond. If it's difficult to insert here, you can first use a thick needle to punch holes through the non-woven fabric. Adjust the direction of the arm slightly. Align the thumb with the side of the fabric that will face the front piece. Then bend the shaping wire. Secure it tightly against the grid board. Next, thread the reserved tail into a sewing needle. Sew together the side edges from section 2 of the arm and the fabric. Be mindful to go through both the grid board while sewing. Securely the arm, fabric, and grid board together. After completing the sewing, continue by bringing the yarn tail out from underneath. Stitch a few more times underneath section 2 of the arm. Secure section 2 of the arm to the fabric. Once done, tie a double knot. This way, the grid board and the arm are attached to this side piece. Remove the temporary securing yarn tails from the grid board. Next, follow the same method. To install the steel wire, grid board, and arm on the other side piece, be sure to attach the arm in the corresponding position above the diamond decoration. The direction should be symmetrical to the arm on the previous side piece. I didn't add decorations to my sample here, but I'm only demonstrating the method. Next, sew the buttons onto the right side piece. Cut a piece of corresponding color yarn and thread it through an appropriate needle. Align the button roughly in the middle of this side piece. Secure it in this position. Pay attention while sewing that. Go through both the fabric and the grid board. This will attach the button to both the fabric and the grid board. After completing the sewing, tie a double knot with the beginning and ending tails. Trim off any excess yarn. The button is now sewn on. Next, using the same method as before, wrap the lining around the grid board on both side pieces. Sew it together with the fabric edges. This way, the lining is attached. Up to this point, the side pieces are completed. Next, work on the bottom piece. It consists of the bottom fabric, the grid board, the leg, and the lining. Next, attach the grid board and the legs. First, align the grid board with the wrong side of the fabric. Temporarily secure it in the center with a yarn tail. Then bend the excess shaping wire on the leg slightly. And hide it inside the leg. Thread the reserved yarn tail through a sewing needle. Position the opening toward the right side of the fabric. Roughly place it in the middle of one of the short sides. Match the outer side of the leg piece with the edge of this short side. Pay attention to aligning the corner at the toe with its corresponding position. Pick up the last round of stitches from the leg and sew it together with the fabric and grid board. Adjust the position as you sew. Make sure not to sew crooked. Be mindful that when you're close to the fabric edge, only sew through the fabric. Do not attach the grid board at the edge, as this might affect the subsequent sewing of the lining. Tie a double knot after finishing the sewing. Weave in the ends. This leg piece is now sewn together. Sew the other leg using the same method. Make sure both toes are facing the same side. Match this toe with the corresponding corner. Leave out the grid board at the edge again. Don't sew it completely. After completing, follow the same method. Wrap the lining around the grid board, and sew it to the fabric. Take a look, everyone. This is what the lower piece looks like after completing in the sample. Next, we'll make the upper fabric and the collar. The method for making the upper fabric is exactly the same as the lower piece. For the collar, use the chain ring method to start, then crochet in rounds. Finally, add decorations. Once completed, temporarily secure the grid board on the wrong side of the upper piece. Sew the collar and the hat together. Lastly, add the lining. The new stitches used are the TW for HDC 3-in-1 and the TV for HDC 2-in-1. Please watch as I demonstrate the specific crocheting method. Let's start by crocheting the collar. Take out the corresponding contrasting color yarn. Cast on 34 chains. Then form the chains into a circle. Make sure the right side is facing you. Be mindful not to twist the chains. Hook into the first chain's front loop, and join with a slip stitch. Tighten. The beginning chain is now complete. Next, we'll work the first round. Chain 1 to begin. Pick up the front loop of the chain below. Work 1 single crochet in each stitch. Crochet all the way around to complete the round. Once finished, join with a slip stitch into the first stitch. Pull tight. The first round is now complete. Continue crocheting the second round. Chain 2 to start. This counts as 1/2 double crochet. Continue by picking up the next stitch and working a HDC 2 in 1. That is, work 2 half double crochets in this stitch. The HDC 2 in 1 is now complete. Continue by picking up the next stitch on the left and working another HDC 2 in 1. Then work 1 HDC 3 in 1. That is, work 3 half double crochets in this stitch. Once done, pick up the next stitch on the left and work a HDC 2 in 1. Alternate downward between working HDC 3 in 1 and HDC 2 in 1. Crochet the entire round. Once completed, pick up the second chain from the beginning chain. Slip stitch to join these two strands. Pull tight. The second round is now complete. Continue with the third round. Chain 2 to start. Pick up the stitch below the beginning chain and work 1/2 double crochet. Then pick up the adjacent stitch on the left and work 2 half double crochets evenly. Next, pick up the left stitch and work 1 HDC 2 in 1. Work 2 more half double crochets evenly. Skip 2 half double crochet stitches going down. Work 1 HDC 2 in 1. Complete this round. Finally, work 1 HDC 2 in 1. Once done, slip stitch into the beginning chain to join. Pull tight. Fasten off the yarn normally. Weave in the ends yourself. The third round is now completed. Next, make the decorations. Take the gold yarn, join the yarn to any stitch on the third round. Work slip stitches correspondingly. Finish crocheting this round. Once completed, leave a tail of about 1 meter and cut the yarn. Pull the yarn through. Thread the yarn tail into a sewing needle. Insert it first into the slip stitch braid on the left. Then insert from the center of this last braid. Exit underneath the adjacent braid. Then insert into the corresponding position of the first round stitch. Slightly tighten. This creates a stripe on the collar. Next, exit from the adjacent stitch on the left. Skip 2 stitches in the last round. Exit from the third stitch. Another stripe is embroidered. From each stitch of the first round, embroider a stripe to the corresponding stitch of the last round. Finish embroidering this round. After completion, tie a double knot on the wrong side of the fabric. Weave in the ends. This decoration is now complete. Up to this point, the collar has been crocheted completely. Next, attach the grid board to the upper piece, the collar and hat. Cut the grid board to the corresponding size. Temporarily secure it in the middle first. Then cut a piece of yarn, in the same color as the collar. Place the right side of the collar facing up. Along the chain position, where the collar was cast on. Sew and secure it to the approximate middle position of the upper piece. First, sew 2 stitches on the wrong side of the collar to secure it. Pay attention, when sewing, make sure to go through both the grid board and the fabric. Tie a double knot after finishing the sewing. Weave in the yarn tail on the wrong side. You can remove the temporary securing thread of the grid board from the front. That's it for sewing the collar. Next, sew the hat. Cut a piece of the same color thread as the hat and thread it into a needle. Take out the hat. Place this pointed end of the hat in the middle of the inner circle of the collar. Adjust the position a little. Sew the bottom of the hat to the upper piece. The sewing method is not fixed. Pay attention to sewing the grid board at the same time. Just sew it securely. Tie a double knot after finishing. Weave in the ends. That's it, the hat is now sewn. Next, follow the same method as before. Wrap the lining on the grid board. Everyone, take a look. This is what the completed lining of the upper piece looks like on the sample. Up to this point, the making method for the upper piece has been fully explained. Next, let's assemble the box. Start by sewing the lower piece to the side piece. Align the edge with a steel rod on the side piece to the narrow edge of the lower piece. Make sure the toes and thumb of the arm are pointing in the same direction. Insert the steel rod through the middle position of the first round, on the edging of the lower piece. Insert it downward toward the leg. Align these two edges. Then sew them together using a whip stitch with the same color thread as the edge. At the starting position, sew a few of extra stitches to secure it. Then pick up the stitches and sew them together one by one with whip stitch. Make sure to weave in the yarn tail inside. After finishing this edge, sew a few of extra stitches at the last stitch to secure it. Then tie a double knot. Weave in the ends. The lower piece and this side are now sewn together. Sew the other side in the same way. Be mindful that the toes and thumb should point in the same direction. And insert the steel rod through the crocheted edge into the leg. Take a look, everyone. This is what it looks like after the side and lower pieces of the sample are sewn together. Next, we'll sew the back piece. Place the heel facing towards you, with the right side of the back piece facing up. Match it to the edges that have already been sewn. Be careful not to sew in the wrong direction. Then, using the same color thread as the edge, whip stitch along these three sides of the back piece. Remember to sew a few extra stitches at the corners for securing. Continue sewing all the way around this round. Once completed, tie a double knot. Weave in the ends. That completes the sewing of the back piece. Next, we'll sew the upper piece. Place the wrong side of the upper piece, facing towards the top of the box. Make sure the opening of the hat is facing forward, in the same direction as the toe. Align the long edge with this edge of the back piece. The two short edges should correspond to the upper edges of the side pieces. Then pick up stitches and whip stitch to sew them together. Take a look, everyone. This is what the upper piece looks like after it's been sewn together. Next, continue to sew the edge between the front piece and the left side piece. Make sure to align the pointed end of the heart shape in the front piece towards the leg. Be careful not to sew it backwards. Take a look, everyone. This is what the sample looks like after the front piece has been sewn together. Up to this point, the box is fully assembled. Next, we'll make the accessories, including the large red heart, crown, button loops and scepter. Let's first learn how to make the large red heart. It consists of Section 1, Section 2, and decorations. For Section 1, you need to crochet 2 identical pieces. Then connect them and crochet Section 2. Finally, add the decorations. Please watch as I demonstrate the specific crocheting method. First, let's start with Section 1. To make the crocheting effect more beautiful, here we use the double magic ring method. Then, crochet 6 single crochets into the magic ring. After completing, tighten the loops a bit. Join with a slip stitch into the first stitch. The first round is now completed. For the rest of section 1, the crocheting method is quite simple. Just follow the chart in order. Once done, leave a tail of about 10 centimeters and cut the yarn. The other one without cutting the yarn. My sample is already done. Starting from round 5, connect the two section 1 pieces. Continue crocheting on the section 1 piece without cutting the yarn. Chain 1 to begin. Work 1 single crochet in each stitch. Finish this round. After completing, take out the other section 1 piece. From the first stitch of the last round, work 1 single crochet in each stitch. Finish this round. After completing, join with a slip stitch in the first stitch. Pull tight. Round 5 is now complete. You can take out the box to compare. The connected piece should be slightly bigger than the heart in the middle. If this piece is much smaller than the heart in the middle, you need to adjust your tension and crochet it again. The crocheting method for the remaining part of the large red heart is relatively simple. Just follow the chart order to crochet. After finishing round 13, start stuffing. Then continue stuffing as you go. Finally, leave a tail for closing the opening. Everyone can finish crocheting it on your own. After everything is completed, you need to sew together the middle connection. Thread the reserved yarn tail into a needle. Sew a few stitches through the middle hole. Then tie a double knot. Weave in the ends. The large red heart is now complete. Next, we'll make the decorations. Take the side of the large red heart, with slip stitch marks in section 2, and use it as the wrong side of the piece. Decorations should be sewn onto the right side. Cut a length of gold thread and thread it into a needle. First, sew a few stitches in any position on the fabric to secure it. Then, come out close to the left side of the point. Continue decorating along this edge. Insert from the approximate stitch position of the third round, on the side of section 1. Exit at the center of the starting point. Embroider a diagonal line like this on this side. Continue to embroider 2 more diagonal lines evenly using the same method. After completing them, embroider 3 symmetrical diagonal lines. Once done, pass the needle through the inside of the piece a few times to secure it. Trim any excess yarn tails. Adjust the position of the gold thread one more time. Next, glue 1/2 bead at each crossing point of the gold threads. Continue to attach the remaining half beads as you go down. This large red heart is now completed. Move on to installing the crown. Apply glue on the back side of the crown. Attach it above the indentation of the heart in the middle of the front piece. That's how you install the crown. Now make the button loop. Cast on 60 chains using the gold thread. Mindful to work them tightly. My sample has fewer stitches here, so it's not for reference. After completing, leave about 10 centimeters of yarn tail before cutting the yarn. Thread the reserved yarn tail into a sewing needle. Locate the corresponding position for the button on the edge of the front opening. Sew a few stitches on the edging of the wrong side to secure it. Then tie a double knot. Weave in the ends. Tuck the starting yarn tail into the chains. You can weave in a few more stitches if you like. Then trim any excess yarn tails. The button loop is now complete. Next, let's learn how to make the wand. It includes the small red heart, the small red heart stem, and the stick. The method for making the small red heart is similar to the large red heart, just with a different number of stitches. For the small red heart stem, start with an adjustable magic ring. Crochet in rounds. After completion, fasten off the yarn invisibly. Everyone can refer to the previous demonstration and follow the chart to make it. I will demonstrate the method for making and attaching the stick. Leave about 1.5 centimeters of length at the top of the stick. Apply glue. Then wrap with gold thread as needed. Here, I'm using a random color scheme. Pay attention to wrapping tightly and neatly. After wrapping the remaining part of the stick, apply glue near the ending position. Then wrap it back upwards. When you're close to the starting position, apply glue to secure it. Trim any excess yarn tails. The stick is now wrapped. Next, insert the reserved part at the top of the stick into the stem of the small red heart. For this sample, I'm using a random color scheme. Draw through from the tip. Apply glue on the top. Then insert it into the middle of the pointed end of the small red heart above. If it doesn't insert easily, you can use a hook to first create a hole here. Glue them securely in place. This completes the wand. Next, attach the base. Place the toy on the base and match them up. At the approximate center of the heel position, insert a needle respectively. You can find a longer needle like this one. Insert its tip into the corresponding position on the base. You can use pliers for assistance. Insert it a little deeper for better stability. After completion, insert the exposed needles into the center of the toy's heel respectively. This way, the toy is attached to the base. Up to this point, the making method of this toy has been fully explained. If you have any unclear parts during the crocheting process, don't hesitate to join our Facebook group to get supports. Susan's family. Support your handwork experience. Share the joy of life. Thanks for watching. See you in the next episode.